Welcome back to Refocused Radio. We are here once again. And just like any other time, we have another special interview for you guys today. We have the one and only Brent Dusing. He's the CEO and founder of TruPlay. You go to their website, TruPlayGames.com. Today, we have to talk about something, and he's going to give us a little bit more of a thorough breakdown. There was a situation where a report was made, and it affected his company in terms of social media and likes of TikTok. We're going to learn about that story. We're going to learn about a report that is really something that's going to raise eyebrows. So first and foremost, I just want to do a proper introduction. When it comes to Brent Dusing, like I say, you can go to the company website, TruPlayGames.com. When it comes to TikTok shaping the culture, more than we realize, you have to understand that things can happen, and a lot of times it can involve kids. So we're going to learn about what is going on, what is the news that we can dive into with Brent and find out what happened. First and foremost, Brent, I want to say thank you for taking some time in your busy calendar to be on the show today. First of all, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Shemaiah. Thank you. Good to be with you.
I appreciate you being on. So let's talk about this report. Global Witness found that TikTok's suggested terms are pushing kids towards graphic content. When you read about that, what was your first reaction, not just as a CEO, but as a father?
Not surprised at all. You know, TikTok has been a source of brain rot in our society. It's been well documented how children's attention spans are getting shorter, which is bad enough. But worse than that, the type of content that they're seeing is telling that the Chinese government won't allow the very content TikTok shows in its own country, but they'll let it be shown to our children. And it has had massive, horrible effects on children everywhere. And by the way, it's not just TikTok. When you look at big social media companies, this has been coming from Google and other platforms as well, there's been toxic content thrust upon our children. And the result is that anxiety, suicide, and depression rates are all-time highs. The result is that in America right now, the average male child, is exposed to pornography when he's 11 years old, which of course means there's tons and tons are exposed even younger. It also, as a Christian, the worst stat is that only 31% of children believe in God, and less than about 2% of children have a biblical worldview. So, when you're inundated all the time with whatever it is, pornography, demonic content, content, hyper-violent content that teaches you that life means nothing, you get to a pretty dark place. And sadly, it's our children that have been affected the most.
And before we get too deep into the report, that we have some slides that we have available. Talk a little bit about your company, TruPlay. It's a Christian entertainment company that is fighting to protect kids, their hearts and minds in this digital age.
Yeah, at TruPlay, what we've really built is a beautiful entertainment platform with games, videos, comics for families, and for families who want their kids to have a positive experience, for their kids to walk away with things like hope, to learn more about who God is, to learn more about that their identity is not some sexual, perverted concept or something to kind of make somebody, angry. Their identity is that they're a child of God, and that what TruPlay is there's over 100 hours of content. It's one app. You can download it on almost any mobile device, phone, tablet, and you jump in, and there's wonderful games there's King David's battles. There's a game called Stained Glass where you play through the story of the Bible. There's a world of characters we've built called the Rimverse. You can see a little bit of it here right behind my head, where there are these characters who, for example, there's a little girl who's a bunny rabbit who wears a tiger costume, and her story is about how she very much believes in God, and she's very courageous, and she goes on this adventure, and they find that in their society, all the Bibles have started to be taken away. And so it has this horrible effect on their society because fewer and fewer people know much about what God's truth is. And so that's so much of what goes on in TruPlay is a fun, beautiful experience for families everywhere that they can trust.
So, like I said in the intro, we have some slides that we're going to get into. So as I get these slides on, the first one, kind of walk the viewers along with what we're going to be kind of unpacking for us today.
Sure. So the reason we're bringing this up with the TikTok story about pushing pornography on kids is that big tech platforms like Google and TikTok have been working hard against your children, have been pushing very dark content against your children for a long time. And we actually have the evidence. So what you're seeing here, so at TruPlay, and please check out our website at trueplaygames.com. You'll see beautiful, fun, encouraging content. And if people, if you're a Christian, wonderful. Even if you're not, we have a lot of people who play the games, who enjoy them, who aren't Christians because they want their kids to have positive values. We have been banned by 50 different times by Google for running ads. And this is just a screenshot of our ads dashboard. And this is one slide. If we had every single rejection, it would be 5 or 6 pages long, or about 50 rejections for over 2 years. So then your question would be, if you're watching this, okay, yeah, but what did you have in your ads? Show the next one. Well, here's one example. We had things as extreme and as offensive as Christian games for kids, safe Bible games for kids, turn game time into God time. Those were all blocked and rejected. Those were disallowed to being run on Google because it's religious content. You're promoting a religious worldview or ideology. So they said, well, we want you to change the ads. And so we changed them to these things like fun games for kids or safe mobile games for kids. But here's the problem. When you take the faith-based messaging out of it, if you're a Christian parent, you have no idea what it contains. Disney and Nickelodeon can tell you learning through play, safe mobile games for kids. You may or may not agree that that's what they're doing, but they can make those claims. For us, we got hit with those violations for very benign ads. And so, and then let me show you the next images. You'll really appreciate this. So you can see this, Christian games for all ages. It shows, turn game time into God time. You see a preview of our games. You can see an ad from one of our endorsers, Kim Walker-Smith. You may know her. She's a fantastic Christian worship leader, very successful Christian musical artist. Those ads were all banned. And because those ads were banned, we can't reach our audience on Google, and fewer people find out about us. And when we do, it costs us more and more money. So by Google actively banning us and blocking those ads, not only has it cost the company quite a bit of money, but it's also more importantly, prevented children from everywhere and prevented parents from finding out about it and preventing children from learning God's truth. Now, you may say to yourself, well, yeah, but that's just Google's policy. You have to deal with it. They're just trying to prevent any religion. That's just what Google's policy is. Well, let's show what the next slide. What other, this is just a little bit more. You can see these ads. You won't find anything offensive in them. And even if you're not a Christian, you'll find, yeah, this is benign stuff. This is pretty, these are ads that I would have no problem with. Okay, let me show you the next slide. Okay, so these are ads that are promoted on Roblox, on Google. The first ad you see on the left is Happy Pride Month. So you see, literally, Roblox is a gaming platform that has children very young, 7, 8, 9 years old, as young as that, play it. And they're promoting sexual content on Roblox in ads. And that's acceptable. Furthermore, Roblox has had for years reports of sex trafficking, children being exploited, child predators coming after children, pornography on Roblox. This has been reported by the Wall Street Journal. It's been reported for years and years. They have lawsuits going on by parents whose children were harmed. We've met parents who that's happened to their kids. And Roblox is allowed to run ads on Google with no restraint. The second ad you see is another Roblox ad. Now, you may have to zoom in a little bit, but what you see is a figure standing in a room with blood everywhere and a pentagram painted on the wall in blood. Now, if the policy from Google is no religious advertising, then how are you allowed to put up the symbol of Satanism, which is a religion, by the way? You look at the next ad, Between Heaven and Hell. That's from Diablo. Diablo, by the way, is, of course, by the name, very successful video game franchise. That's a video game about Satan. Again, qualifies as a religion. They're able to run ads with no problem at all. But when we run ads about turn game time into God time or strengthen your child's faith, we get blocked and restricted. to show ads to children about sexual content that's completely inappropriate for them, to show ads to children with blood everywhere, people being dismembered, blood painted on the wall, is sick and disgusting, and Google should be ashamed that they're blocking our content and promoting such horrendous things as that, which I doubt that even people who work at Google who have children would want their children to use and play and see. Okay, let me show you what's been going on. I think the next, TikTok. So we've had similar issues on TikTok. Now, TikTok says, well, we're going to stop certain ads that you're running. We've had issues going on with TikTok for over a year because you can't talk about a God. And this is an image, a screenshot of one of their policies. Okay, next. We have gotten ad rejections from TikTok every 2 weeks. These are just 3 examples. Again, if I showed you every example of a violation we got from TikTok, Shemaiah, you and I'd be sitting here for the next 3 hours just looking at those. You can see in a red circle, your account has been suspended. So what happens is for those who may not know, when you're promoting a product, you go out and you have to buy ads, on where people are. And when we were children, of course, people would buy ads on television. They might buy radio ads. Well, today, of course, everybody's on social media, right? So you go and you buy ads on social media networks. That's where people are for better and sometimes, frankly, for worse. Well, people are on TikTok. So you run these ads on TikTok. So once your ads get blocked, not only can you not reach your audience, but even when you appeal and they say, oh, I'm sorry, the algorithm caught it, but we'll fix it for you. It's like driving a car where you were flying down the highway. You had to pull over to the side of the road, pull over on the shoulder and stop your car. And then you got to restart your car again, right? So in other words, when you're trying to grow and show your product to people all over the world, especially your audience, your target audience, you've got to be able to fly down the highway fast. And what these restrictions are doing, because they're blocking the Christian worldview actively, is what they're essentially doing is preventing the Christian worldview from getting out because you're not able to scale. And it's not that there's somebody sitting behind a desk looking at each of our ads and clicking no. It's the algorithm. They've built this algorithm at whether it's at Google or at TikTok that's very negative on the Christian worldview, right? So it views the Christian worldview as a threat. It's an AI-based algorithm, right? So it views the Christian worldview as a threat, and then it suppresses anything about Bible, faith, God. But let's show you a little bit more detail. Okay, next. So here's what's not allowed. In everybody's familiar with, if you've got an iPhone, Google Play has a similar thing. If you go in the App Store on your iPhone, you have what's called the app preview page, right? You can read more about it. You can see the ratings. You can see images of the product. We have that for TruPlay. We had one of our images showing Jesus on the cross. Very well-known story. If you live in any town or city in America, you'll see a cross because you'll ultimately drive by some church, right? Very common story and image and theme in the Western world. That was blocked and not allowed. So it wasn't that I was even running an ad. We were not even running an ad with a cross on it. We just had that image on our preview page in the App Store. No, you're not allowed to run ads on TikTok if you have that image on your preview page in the App Store, because TikTok's policy is you can't show an image of a God. Well, that's interesting. So there is a religion called Satanism, which is horrible. Their God is Satan. And so there's a game called Diablo, which we've talked about, and you can see in the middle images of various demonic creatures, which are allowed in ads. So this is an exact screenshot of ads that Diablo has run very successfully. Roblox, who we spent a lot of time talking about, which has all kinds of stories and children who've been harmed from it, from sex trafficking, child porn. Not only showing ads around Happy Pride Month, pushing sexual content on children, inappropriate sexual content. Also, underneath that, TikTok's also allowed Roblox to run very violent content, even for young children. Okay, next. These are different ads that we've had. We've been fortunate to be endorsed by some wonderful people. You may know the Billy Graham Association. You may know Mike Huckabee. You may know Kim Walker-Smith, we've mentioned, Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain. We've been fortunate to be endorsed by Riley Gaines. She gave us a wonderful endorsement. We were not allowed to run our endorsement from Riley Gaines on our platform. And the way that internet advertising works today, the most effective internet ads, when you're when you're scaling products is running endorsements from people who are well-known, famous celebrities who speak well to your audience. Riley is a perfect example, and a wonderful young woman. She's a perfect example of somebody that speaks to our audience because of the values that she's had, and frankly, because of the battles she's fought in her life. That was not allowed to run. As you can see, somewhere between 0 to 1,000 people saw that ad. Other ads that we've run, where these are ads that are very benign, talking about kids need a safe space. Those were blocked. How showing kids having a safe space is offensive when they're allowing children to get on platforms where they're actively being preyed upon and trafficked is abhorrent. Next. And again, here's some more examples of ads that TikTok has allowed to run. It doesn't seem like Diablo's running afoul of their religious language banning. You can see an ad here and you can see all the people who've seen it. Millions of people have seen these ads. One's about necromancy, which I don't even want to discuss, on your podcast. It's disgusting but again, this is promoted for children. There's another, hellish creature in, Diablo. There's on Roblox, you can see a skull with blood everywhere. And then the last ad, everyone died. So we're in this age, right, where there's, hyperviolence, where there's school shootings. When fortunately we had a school shooting in Minneapolis a couple months ago. By the way, who were the targets? Christian children. Who was the targets in the Nashville shooting? Christian children. We had the last public figure who got shot. What was he? He was a Christian. Charlie Kirk, right?
Yeah.
People who have this awful, demonic agenda going in, shooting innocent Christians. Why? Because their minds have been warped. Every school shooter since Columbine in the late 90s, those kids were listening to satanic music. Most recently, transgender kids going and shooting Christian schools. That's the last three big shooters: Nashville, Charlie Kirk, the Minnesota shooting. How did that happen? Because they're inundated with toxic content. Where are they finding it? Places like TikTok. So to kind of bring the conversation back full circle with you, Shemaiah, it's, Dinesh D'Souza once said, politics is downstream from culture, right? You can vote for whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's the stories that people have in their mind. What did Jesus do? He told stories. And so what we're doing at TruPlay is telling children stories that, hey, you're loved. You have a purpose in your life. The Bible can really speak into your life and help you, grow and be the person you're designed to be. We want the best for you. And so even more so than us, so does God. But if you can't get those stories to children, they won't hear them. If all they hear is violence and sexual content and really demonic content, then that's what they'll believe. And then sadly, you have the results that we've had that I was speaking about in real life. And that kind of brings it back full circle to why I'm not surprised at all that TikTok has been promoting pornography on children.
Once again, listen, Refocused Ready and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Brent Dusing, CEO and founder of TruPlay. Go to their website, TruPlayGames.com. Before we run out of time, I got a couple questions for you, and that is just reacting to what you showed us with those slides. If this were to happen in any other industry, say food or toys, will it be safe to say regulators will be all over it? And if that's the case, why is it different with tech getting a pass?
That's a great question, Shmai. I've never been asked that. It's a great question. You're right. If they're, right now we're dealing with, headlines with, Tylenol may have issues, may cause issues for pregnant women, right? So if there was some food or some medication that was known and proven to contain toxins, then it would be pulled off the shelf, right? I think when you and I were children, there was some scare, I don't remember what it was, but there was some over-the-counter drug that had to get pulled because it had been tampered with back in the 80s. And so you're right, so that people would take action, right? But in the media world, in the technology world, it's almost like this reverse world where whatever's toxic is promoted and pushed hard, and whatever's pure and good, whatever the things are that you want to teach your children, that you were probably taught by your parents, that your grandmother would have taught you, that's suppressed. And I think what it shows is that, one, there really is an awful, evil, demonic agenda against our children. Secondly, people who were in charge of content moderation at TikTok and Google don't have our best interests in mind and are being completely irresponsible. For my, just like you talked about food, if you work for the Food and Drug Administration, your first responsibility is protecting people.
But they consume.
Absolutely. So then why, if you run a big tech platform like Google or TikTok, aren't you taking that same responsibility for the well-being of children? Because again, look at the results from all these horrible statistics we've talked about today.
When you think about TikTok's reasoning or excuse when you appeal to those bans, how do you stay calm and still strategic with your own company to navigate those adversities? Because, like I said, when you have other companies who have free reign, if you will, to do what they want as they please on their platform, but in your case, you're not. You're being restricted and giving excuses of why this algorithm found you, but it doesn't find anybody else. How do you navigate those waters?
That's a great question. A few things. One, we know that God's with us, so we're not alone, and there's a level at which they don't have ultimate free reign, right? There's a level at which God is still sovereign, and we know that, and He's called us to this, and we also know that God wants best for our children. So we have that faith and conviction that this is going to reach the right people. Now, how do we do that? Well, we use other channels. We're not just dependent on TikTok and Google, thank God, but also, frankly, it's by talking with people like you. It's by talking to people like you who have the courage to share this story. And there are people out there who care about this. There are people who are journalists, who are influencers, who care a lot about this. And we've been blessed to have some wonderful people behind us, whether they be investors, whether they be influencers, as I mentioned, Riley Gaines, Mike Huckabee, Kim Walker-Smith, the Billy Graham Association, Promise Keepers, these wonderful organizations who've also endorsed and supported us, multiple churches and pastors. So we know there's an audience out there. We know that there's every mother's number one problem is screen time. And we know that people are hungry for positive, uplifting content, even who aren't Christians, because they don't want, pentagrams made out of blood painted on the wall shown in front of their 8-year-old. They don't want their child to go on Roblox and experience a harmful situation, right? So we know that people are hungry for the truth and the positive. And at TruPlay, we believe in God, but we also believe in our product. We've built a world-class product that has over 100 hours of content that kids love, that's actually beating Roblox. If you give a kid Roblox, you give them TruPlay, they're twice as likely to come back after a week and 3 times as likely to come back after a month. So it's not like the old days of trying to, if you will, give your kid Robitussin, where it's like, yeah, this tastes awful, but it'll be good for your cough. Like Christian entertainment for kids used to be pushed. What we've built is something that we know that people love. And now it's just a matter of getting more people to hear about it.
Well, we will do that here on Refocused Ready, and more so, we might have to talk afterwards and see if there's ways we can support what you're doing for the community. When you think about what's next for TruPlay, you kind of highlighted some of the high points, but outside of the building of partnerships and planning and doing all these meetings and building the brand, so to speak, what do you hope will be the future opportunity of TruPlay as you hopefully can find maybe new creative ways to get your product to the viewers and consumers?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on at TruPlay. We've got a new game coming out called TruPlay Trains, which is our characters in this really fun, kind of competitive train battle contest. We're going to turn that into multiplayer very shortly, so you can play along with your friends in a safe way. We're releasing some daily devotionals pretty soon. I just saw the very first instances of that this week. They look fantastic. So all that stuff I was just describing, the devotionals and TruPlay Trains, will be out before Thanksgiving. And then we're going to keep making more games, more content. We have a lot of people who've been excited about our characters, and so we're going to do more to kind of show and display those characters to other people, because we're in a moment right now. I think after Charlie Kirk died, there's a lot of people who are waking up to saying, look, there really is this evil agenda that's trying to silence the word of God. And the people who need to hear it the most are our kids. The mission field, and I respect missionaries who go across the world to some remote country, but the mission field is right here. The mission field is with our children, in your home, in front of a screen. The average kid's on a screen 50 hours a week. Let's be right there. Let's see them where they are. So we're excited. We're going to continue to, and there's been people reaching out, partnering with us and getting behind us and subscribing to TruPlay and the wonderful partners we have supporting us. So we're just continuing to move it forward.
Once again, been listening to Refocused Radio and talking to our guest today, Brent Dusing, CEO and founder of TruPlay, TruPlayGames.com. Make sure you spread the word, and I know you will. If you're listening to this show, then I know you can be spreading the good word. So once again, like always, to you, Brent, before we close, if there's anything you want to say to maybe TikTok, and if their people might find this video and listen, if you had 30 seconds to give them a message, what would that message be?
I would say to TikTok that you have a responsibility to people that you've never met, to the content that reaches their eyeballs, and that one day all of us will have to stand in front of God and account for what we've done with our lives. And I would encourage you at TikTok to take your responsibility seriously, and I say this to Google too, to what children see, what messages they get, and what impressions are left upon them in their lives. So that'd be my message. And also to those who are listening out there who, please check out TruPlayGames.com. We'd love to have you join the movement. You can come on and check out the product. We're also asking for people to come on and make a contribution, because there are other channels we're using right now that we can use to advertise. We haven't had issues with Meta, with Facebook. That's been pretty fair to us. So we need bullets. We're in a battle. We're fighting, two Goliaths, and we need. We're going to continue to have bullets to use to reach more and more people.
If someone's watching this right now, my last question before we sign off is, if a parent's watching this or just a adult, someone's watching this right now, what's the best way that they can support you in the moment?
Yeah, the best way, if you want to support TruPlay, go to TruPlayGames.com, subscribe, and make a contribution. We'd love for you to make a contribution and share this with your friends. Share this with your church. If you're part of a mom's group, go to your mom's group. If you're part of a prayer group, go to your prayer group. Maybe you're a grandparent. You can buy this for your grandkids. But come on board and get on board and join the movement, where people are standing up and saying, we've got to have something better for our kids. We've got to bring them the truth. We've got to do it in a way that's beautiful and fun and engaging, that the child will want to use and enjoy. And I think you'll like what you find at TruPlay.